Behind the Line Extra for your Saturday, January 18th, 2020. I am your host, KC. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Leave a 5-star rating on iTunes. I appreciate all the support. This is one of my favorite times of year. It's bittersweet, really. My favorite time of year is fall, when NFL season's in full swing. The NBA starts to kick off around mid-October. But right now, through the spring, is an exciting time in the world of sports. We got Championship Sunday in the NFL this weekend. We're going to go over each game in a few minutes. The NBA regular season is starting to heat up. You have March Madness. The playoff chase in the NBA will start after the All-Star break. The vibes are positive right now in the world of sports. And vibes are possibly more positive in Dallas right now than any other NFL city, besides the 4 teams that are fighting for the Super Bowl this weekend. Mike McCarthy was hired last week, taking over the most talented roster of any team that was searching for a head coach this offseason. When Jason Garrett was coaching Dallas through last season, all the ups and downs, mainly downs, that went with the 2019 Cowboys, I compared what Jerry Jones was going through with Garrett as a marriage ending in divorce. When you go through a divorce, it's best to start over with a clean slate. No more contact with your ex unless you have to, you have kids or something. You find a new circle of friends. What you don't do is you don't hang on to the past. For the most part, Jerry Jones has wiped the slate clean in Dallas. Most of the last season's coaching staff is gone. But they decided to hold on to one person that I thought was kind of interesting. Mike McCarthy told the local press in Dallas Thursday, in reference to the Cowboys offense, quote, "The old theory of don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I want to build off what's been established," end quote. He's talking about offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, one of the most, if not the most, inexperienced offensive coordinators in the league. "I want to build off what's been established," says Mike McCarthy. Well, what exactly has been established? Many will point to the fact that the Cowboys were the number 6 offense in the league under Kellen Moore, number 1 in points scored. That doesn't impress me. In my eyes, the 2019 Cowboys offense was the worst it's been in the Dak Prescott era. The focal point went away from Ezekiel Elliott, and the offensive focal point was on Dak Prescott. In a contract year, statistically, Dak had his most productive season of his NFL career, and it resulted in an 8-8 season. Kellen Moore and this offense looked great the first 3 weeks of the season against the Giants, Redskins, and Dolphins. Then they struggled at New Orleans, Packers, Jets. 3-game losing streak once they faced superior defenses. Anytime Kellen Moore went up against a good defense, the Cowboys were dominated. In a game that decided their season against a Philadelphia team that was trotting out practice squad players, Kellen Moore's offense managed to score 9 points. 4 times this season, Dallas was held to 10 points or less, all against good defensive units. The stats are an illusion. It's all smoke and mirrors. I'm not banging on Kellen Moore here. I mean, he's a young guy. You can't expect him to be great immediately. Mike McCarthy's saying that he's going to let Moore continue to run the offense in Dallas, calling the plays on Sundays. I think it's a mistake. First of all, Mike McCarthy called the offense for the majority of his tenure in Green Bay, and they were one of the best offenses in the league every year. So why would you not do the same in Dallas? It just doesn't make sense. Secondly, the Cowboys are in win-now mode. Not because they have an aging roster, but because they have an aging owner and desperate need for another Super Bowl title. Desperate to prove that he can win a title without Jimmy Johnson leading the charge. Yes, he won one with Barry Switzer, with a team that Jimmy Johnson built. Jason Garrett caught a lot of shit for the Cowboys' performance last season. I was one of many decimating him on a weekly basis. but Kellen Moore was calling the offense. Now, yes, Jason Garrett had veto power to overrule calls, but the schemes, the play calling, was on Kellen Moore. I think it's the wrong way to begin McCarthy's tenure in Dallas. The pressure is going to be high next season, and he's relegating the most important facet of the game, offensive play calling, to a second-year coordinator with very, very little experience. He's got an entire offseason to change his mind. If it were me, and I had Mike McCarthy's history of success, I'd want the decision-making in my hands. All right, continuing on with NFL news, I mentioned after New England lost to the Titans a couple of weeks ago that Tom Brady's time with the Patriots had come to an end. A report came out late Friday afternoon that Brady and his family are planning to leave the Boston area after their kids finish out this school year. Their house is listed for sale. His family's suite at Gillette Stadium has been completely cleared out. This shouldn't come as a surprise. When you're a legendary player, and there's only a few of them in the NFL and NBA, most want to retire where they start their career, or at least where their legendary status was cemented. But it rarely happens. Michael Jordan didn't retire with the Bulls. Peyton Manning didn't retire with the Colts. Thinking back the last 20 or 30 years, the only legends I can think of that retired with the teams that they created their legacy with are Magic Johnson, Barry Sanders, Larry Bird, and Kobe Bryant. It's tough to do for a myriad of reasons. A lot of times, though, the organization drafts someone to replace you and decide that they want to move on. And the legend's just not ready to retire. The Patriots were set up for that exact situation a couple of years ago. They let Jimmy G go, held on to Tom Brady, won another Super Bowl. But now the chickens have come home to roost. I've said it several times on this podcast. I think there's real resentment right now between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Patriots owner Robert Kraft has said that he wants Tom Brady back next year, but would rather him retire than finish out his career somewhere else. Tom Brady's not retiring, and Bill Belichick doesn't want him back. Tom Brady is said to be embarrassed at his compensation in comparison to other NFL quarterbacks. And who could fucking blame him? His base salary last season was $1.7 million. Now, after his signing bonus and other, incentives, he made $23 million. That is a bargain. Listen to some of these guys making more money than the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Matt Ryan, not in the playoffs. Matt Stafford, not in the playoffs. Kirk fucking Cousins, can't win big games. Jacoby Brissett, can't do much of anything well. Derek Carr, Jared Goff. Tom Brady has bent over backwards to help this organization, taken significantly less money so the team could go out and sign other players and get him some help. How do they repay his generosity? They go out and get Mohamed Sanu, the number 3 receiver in Atlanta. They replace Rob Gronkowski with an aging Ben Watson. I think Tom Brady feels disrespected by Bill Belichick and the Patriots, and he's got every right to feel that way. But that's the way it is in sports and in life. Tom Brady won New England 6 Super Bowls. Doesn't matter. It's a what have you done for me lately league. And he struggled the entire season. Tom Brady isn't retiring because he loves the game of football. But I think he's got extra motivation behind him to prove Bill Belichick and the Patriots wrong. Because they think he's done. There are rumors that he could end up out in Los Angeles with the Chargers. God knows they could use him. That team gets zero support. I think a better situation would be Indianapolis. I said it a couple of weeks ago, but I think the Colts are ready-made for a Super Bowl run. All they're missing is a quarterback. About to get to my championship weekend bets for tomorrow. I wanted to touch on one thing real quick. This is a critical offseason for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The franchise is facing a decision that could have huge ramifications for years to come. And that decision is, what do they do with Jameis Winston? They have three choices. They can let him walk, sign him to a long-term big money contract, or franchise tag him through next season. There was too much talent on this Tampa team for them to finish 7-9. This team won because of Jameis Winston, but they definitely missed the playoffs because of Jameis Winston. His multi-turnover games were responsible for 3, 4, maybe even 5 losses. You flip those to wins, this team is 10-6, 11-5. They're in the playoffs, and they would be a dangerous team in the playoffs. The problem in Tampa, they've got a lot of key players on this roster due up for new contracts. So if they give Jameis big money, what do they have left for Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, and Ndamukong Suh? Those three were key players on a defense that honestly was better than the stats showed. Their quarterback did their defense no favors. If you franchise tag Jameis Winston, then you run into a whole other set of problems next season. If he limits the turnovers and has another 5,000-yard year in 2020, you end up paying him more money than you would if you just signed him this offseason. If that's the case, you have guys like Chris Godwin and O.J. Howard coming up for contracts in 2021. Tampa's in a tough spot. They have their potential franchise quarterback. Make no mistake about it. Jameis Winston is insanely talented. And the off-the-field issues haven't been as prevalent in the NFL as they were back in his college days at Florida State. He's improved in every facet of the game except the most important one, decision-making. There have been legendary quarterbacks in the NFL before that were interception machines, and they won Super Bowls. Brett Favre caused Mike Holmgren to pull his hair out, literally, with his knack for throwing interceptions. Eli Manning led the league a couple of times in interceptions. Both won Super Bowls. 2 in Eli's case. But neither one of those guys ever threw 30 interceptions in one fucking season. Actually, no one's ever done that before except Jameis Winston. I think Tampa had a good enough roster in 2019 to contend for a Super Bowl. They have a great wide receiver duo, brilliant head coach in Bruce Arians, good defense. Only thing that held them back was Jameis Winston. I don't think they have any choice but to give him the franchise tag and hope for the best. He's not going to be happy with it. The quarterback position is the hardest position in pro sports to fill. Think about it. There are 320 million people in this country. There's only 32 starting quarterback jobs in the NFL. Of those 32, there are maybe 5 or 6 that are franchise-type quarterbacks, elite-level quarterbacks. Out of 320 million people, 5 or 6 have the ability to be a franchise quarterback. Jameis Winston has that potential to be included in those handful of guys. His stats are not padded like Dak Prescott's. The Bucs were in most of their games, even with the multiple turnovers by Jameis Winston. All right, let's get to the NFL championship games tomorrow. First one up, Titans at Chiefs. Current line, Kansas City -7. Andy Reid reminds me a lot of Bill Cowher. For 14 years in Pittsburgh, the one negative on Cowher's resume was that he couldn't win the big game, couldn't get over the hump. Devastating home losses in AFC championship games, lost to the Cowboys in the Super Bowl in the mid-90s. Andy Reid, for as respected as he is in the NFL, the one knack against him is that he can't win when it counts. He's 1-5 in conference championship games. Lost his one Super Bowl appearance. All I've heard all week is this is Andy Reid's best chance to make it out of the AFC. The two teams that could beat him, Baltimore and New England, are both out. I don't know why people are still overlooking this Titans team, but I'm not. I told you when the playoffs began, this team is built to win on the road. Grinds you down with Derrick Henry, and they've got a stingy defense. One thing that concerns me about the Titans, they've won the last 2 games because of turnovers. They forced 5 turnovers in the playoffs. That tends to balance itself out. And the Chiefs are one of the best teams in the league at taking care of the football. I think this game is all about Ryan Tannehill. Mike Vrabel hasn't leaned on him much the past couple of weeks. But I think he's going to have to lean on Tannehill more tomorrow, especially if the Chiefs build an early lead. What the Titans can't do is go down 10-0, 14-0, 17-0. Tennessee's a team built to play with a lead, grind out the clock to limit their opponent's possessions. All the pressure in this game is on Andy Reid and the Chiefs. This is a must-win for Andy Reid to quiet the doubters. Tennessee at this point is playing with house money. I see a low-scoring game here. I know everyone is clamoring for a Chiefs-Packers Super Bowl, especially Fox. But I actually like the Titans to go into Kansas City and win this game tomorrow. I'm going to ride the hot team here, taking the points, Tennessee +7. Packers at 49ers, current line, San Francisco -7.5. Somehow, the worst 13-3 team in the league has found themselves in the NFC Championship game. It's no secret, I don't really like this Packers team. They went ugly. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been legendary Aaron Rodgers all season, though we saw flashes of his greatness in the fourth quarter last week against Seattle. He made some clutch throws to close out that game. But Aaron Rodgers has been playing it safe all season. Throughout his career, he's been known for throwing the deep ball. I think he has more Hail Mary touchdown passes at the end of the first half or the end of the game than any other quarterback in NFL history. But we haven't seen that guy this year. He's been hesitant to take risk. He can't play it safe and expect to beat the 49ers. Jimmy G's been doubted all season, me being one of his biggest critics. But he's in an ideal situation. He knows he doesn't have to play hero ball. He can rely on his defense and running game and make the plays when needed. San Francisco faltered a little to close the season. 3-2 the last 5 weeks of the regular season, but they weren't healthy on defense. The 2 weeks off allowed them to get back to 100%. The Niners decimated Green Bay earlier this season. I don't expect to see that kind of game again. Usually, when one team is dominated by their opponent, they bounce back in the rematch. I don't think the Packers have enough firepower offensively to go into San Francisco and win. But I do like them to keep it close and cover, especially with that half point making it a 2-possession cover for San Francisco. Taking Green Bay +7.5. All right, that's all for today, guys. I'll be back Tuesday to recap the weekend. Enjoy your weekend and the McGregor fight tonight. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Leave a 5-star rating on iTunes. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. I will see you on Tuesday.